Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is the 4th of July.
Happy 4th. Happy
Happy
Independence Day.
4th, everybody. Happy birthday, USA. And for all those tards that participating in protests to protest the USA, I want to give them a great shout out and thank them for their stupidity because this is the only country
They can
uh,
do it in.
that they get to do it. And they don't realize it's a country they could leave if they want. Do you notice the protesters in this country never leave,
I
basically?
know.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, even the ones down in Alligator Alcatraz, they can self-deport and leave.
That's right.
I mean, and they'll even give them the free flight and some money. But these people are protesting, and it's like, well, somebody should actually, because they're morons and they listen to people, commie college professors. They think that they believe the pablum, and they don't realize that if they protested, you know what they did when they protested in China in Tiananmen Square, right?
Yeah.
We know what they did when they protested in Hungary. They ran them over with tanks.
That's it.
They want to protest in a country that's not going to kill them or send them to a gulag in Siberia. So, I mean, this just goes to show the stupidity, the absolute lunacy of the left. And some of these wokey, they're mindless idiots. On 4th of July, it irritates me because, this is the greatest country in the world, without a doubt. I mean, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. But the reality is that this is the only place you get to do the dumb shit that they do.
That's it. Now, a little bit of information. Today, the big, beautiful bill was signed into law. And for all of you Social Security recipients out there, okay, there was a fake story on Facebook that the email sent out by the Social Security Administration is not true. And the email starts out with Social Security applauds passage of legislation providing historic tax relief for seniors. The big, beautiful bill provides for Social Security recipients a $6,000 tax credit on your tax forms. So for all of you city retirees who got those windfall retro payments, which are taxable, which is something a lot of you didn't know, you get a $6,000 credit, which should provide a wash, so you won't have to pay taxes on it. Not everything in the bill was terrible. Not everything in the bill was outrageous.
Well, there was some terrible stuff in there. Like, you imagine requiring people to work.
I know.
They're capable of working. Imagine how horrifying that must be to the useless rats that get everything for nothing.
How about the provision? How about the provision in the bill which says Medicaid, federal Medicaid money cannot be used on illegal aliens? Maura Healey.
That's right. That's right.
That's
But Maura Healey doesn't care.
Right.
Maura Healey is telling you she's taking them out of the hotels.
That's right.
But what she isn't telling you is she's building them housing.
That's right.
Duh. Maura Healey is an absolutely, and that's saying something in Massachusetts. Listen, that's just like saying Paul Coogan's the worst mayor we've ever had. Without a doubt, it's true. He's done.
Oh, wait, Paul's really good. You, as a civic-minded individual in Fall River, are expected to go out tomorrow, Saturday, July 5th, and clean up the waterfront.
Yeah.
from the 4th of July celebration. Why? Because Paul wants to take care of his friends, and he probably doesn't have the money in his budget to pay for it.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to pay overtime and to clean it up. You're civic minded. I love it. Is he civic minded when he rapes the taxpayers, when he blows money and gives people pay raises greater than the people who he's asking to go clean up the mess, other people's mess that are making annually for a pay raise? So this is the whole problem. So you know what I'm saying? But if you're really fair-minded, boycott it. I'm not cleaning up somebody else's mess, okay?
I'm not cleaning up.
I'm going to tell him I'm waving a flag at him, okay? So I picked the correct finger. Wave that. This is it. You know, this is America's birthday. You want to go to the fireworks? Go to the fireworks. Well, Paul should have told those civic-minded citizens that are going to the fireworks to clean up after themselves.
That's right. That's right. And you know what really gets me? Fall River is so piss poor, which we know, that they had to go to Barrett's Ale House for 20% of their checks to afford to pay for the 4th of July celebration. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for local merchants and businesses supporting the 4th of July celebration. You get a bigger bang for your buck. That's what Boston does. Not that Boston doesn't put out a lot of money, but companies support it. When we had Fall River Celebrates America, how many company names, did we say up around Fall River Celebrates America? Tons of them. Tons of them. Banks, restaurants, you name it, they were there. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with you making it seem like it's the patriotic thing to do. Let me drop the F-bomb on you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, listen.
If the businesses had gotten together like they used to back in the 60s and 70s, when we had a Chamber of Commerce that represented Fall River and not New Bedford.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, this city's been running on a shoestring forever. I remember when they didn't have money for stamps.
Yep.
I remember when they borrowed nearly $1 million from our trust fund to keep our Canadian drug plan, and we only loaned it to them to keep the plan because we saved millions of dollars, and it helps us. And it's good to have community people helping the city, although the city shouldn't need help. You should live within your means. But again, here's Paul. Paul does what Democrats look at best. Look for handouts.
That's right.
Go to your friends in the government, get a handout. But that Democrat you're looking at for a handout is not giving you his money. He's giving you your tax money back and everybody else's tax money. Like I said, Maura Healey is just like Coogan, a disingenuous liar. And she's saying we're taking them out of the hotels. She's not telling you she's building them housing. Your American taxpayers, people who are working and paying taxes, are paying to build illegal aliens housing. They wouldn't vote for housing preferences for veterans, but Maura Healey is going to build. And by the way, Acton. Are you familiar with Acton, Mass?
Yes, I am.
Very, very rich area.
Yep.
Guess what Acton's doing? I got to look up I'll look up their per capita income because I know Acton. I used to know the president of the Acton firefighters, and one of the richest communities around. They're building affordable housing.
Imagine that.
Johnston, Rhode Island, Somerset, Mass, Acton.
Jamestown.
They're building affordable housing. And what are we doing in Fall River? More tips to the rich. More. Yeah, I mean, again, this 4th of July is a celebration of what a great nation this is to be in, because we got these nitwits that believe nothing but that mainstream media uh, garbage, and they believe stuff like, oh, all these people are going to be. No, they want people to work who are capable of working. They want to fix these things. I did not lose power. As far as Colin's asking if we lost power.
I didn't lose power either, Colin. I'm assuming you lost power, Colin.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, it's amazing that these counter protests that are going to be being held are, they're so dumb they don't realize that.
Colin, in regards to those conversations we had about you sending stuff off to the state, make it very clear in your letters. Make it very clear in your letters that you are an elected official in the city of Fall River. They will give your complaints more credibility. And yes, I know Fall River Government Television is down, Fall River Educational Television is down, and Fall River Community Media is down. Karma's a bitch.
Karma is a bitch. Let's see. And another thing, Colin, I suggest to you, which I always do, is when you write those letters, you should attach documents that are germane to the argument, like some of that case law, excerpts from the case law, cite the case, tell them that it is your obligation, your fiduciary obligation. I always attach a definition of a fiduciary from a prestigious law firm like Cornell. I also attach a few cases that show that you're obligated to look at those numbers. You're obligated to look deeply into those numbers, and that everything you're saying is absolutely. The per capita income in Acton is 75,640. Their poverty rate is 3%. Ours is 21% or 20.9%. Our per capita income is 30. So figure almost 3 times as much. There are richer areas in Acton, but Acton is pretty well-to-do for the most part. They have 24,000 people in Acton, and they're building affordable housing, and they only have a 3% poverty rate. So those kind of statistics kind of show where the priorities are in these inner cities. And it's not on the taxpayer. It's not on the working man. It's not on the average Fall River citizen. And that's why when, Colin, you're fighting to actually look at where the money goes, you're doing exactly what you swore an oath to do. And you are 100% justified, and don't take their shit. It's that simple. On Independence Day, send them letters. I will be sending them a lengthy letter, which they'll probably ignore. Like I'm actually going to send them the copy of the complaint I filed, which is saying fundamentally the same thing in 2017, because I still have it. And nothing happened then. So, this is the problem, but you have to, don't worry, you are going to win this battle because you are right. And for the city of Fall River and its mayor, who is quote unquote ex officio chairman of the school department, to go on a video, you can put them all in jail. They're malfeasant as public officials. For him to go tell people that you don't need to look at the numbers, just vote. That's a violation of his sworn duty. And so, I mean, this is the problem. We have a guy that never gives the taxpayers a break, never gives us a break on fees, gives out massive pay raises in the face of the city going into receivership, kicking a can down the road for an election bid, because if he hit us with the full brunt, it would be devastating to virtually everybody of an average income. But then he has the audacity, the temerity to ask people to go clean up after somebody else. He's going to be there for the photo op. Look at the fireworks I brought to Fall River. But you guys can get to clean it up and pay for it, and then I'll go sponge off the other people. And they'll have to give me a donation because I'm the mayor, and I might say something bad about them, and they'll lose business. So, like he did with BCC, and like you said, CJ, karma's a bitch.
Yep.
Karma's a bitch. They are off the air. No loss, however. They're off the air. It's like when they're on the air, they're not on the air. All they do is talk about propaganda, like the Democratic 8.5 hour response that said absolutely nothing and lied about everything, basically. So what do they do best? They lie and cry. They had a couple of congresswomen. They had one from Colorado. She was crying. This bill is going to hurt people in Colorado. Yeah, because you guys are a sanctuary state. You're allowing Tren de Agua to break into apartments. They didn't want to do anything in Denver, and they had videos of these animals. All I can say is the draft is going well for alligators. I got a text that has a video of the draft for the NFL draft. This is the alligator draft for the moats. So it is really hysterical. I'll send it to you, CJ.
I saw an interesting meme, which I thought you'd love. It's a picture of a quasi Donald Duck. It says, if you can go up to a car and ask for money, you can go up to an employer and ask for a job. How true?
Of course.
How true?
Yeah, and that's it. The Democrats are complaining because they're going to require people who can work and are fully capable of working to work. I mean, and you know the irony of this thing is this idea is so old that I wrote a paper on it in college. When I was in college, when I got out of the service and went back on a GI Bill, I wrote a paper about what we do with the welfare system because it costs so much money, but it's actually woven into our economic base. It's like eliminating drug rehabs, and then you'd have hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs. And that's why they resist doing anything, because there are a lot of people employed in these industries. Well, the welfare industry with social welfare, all the other things that are attached to them, generate a lot of jobs, especially a lot of easy jobs and government jobs and pseudo-government jobs. But I wrote something that Milton Friedman talked about, a negative income tax. You know what that is, CJ.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally, you get out, you work, and if you don't make enough money to survive, and they have that limit that they feel, the government gives you that much assistance. They don't pay for everything, but you actually have to work. So my cure to welfare was exactly what they're doing today, and that was, eons ago. When I got out of the service, I said, well, we should have a welfare system that provides total care for anybody who is incapable physically or psychologically from holding a job. That it's impossible for them because of whatever medical or psychological condition they have. Most of those people should be in an institution. But I said anybody else that can work partially or full time should be put to work. That income should be computed, and any difference between that income and a livable income should be then given by the government, and it would take 50% of the people off welfare, maybe more. And this is exactly what they did in this bill. And the Democrats' heads burst into flame. So they tell you the half truth. Oh, they're going to throw people off. Well, they're going to throw you can't, if you, like Donald Duck said, if you walk up to a car and ask for money, you can walk up to an employer and ask for a job.
That's right.
So, again, Here we see the parallel between normal people and left-wing Democrats.
And let's be real. If this lump can get a job,
A good job.
and
high
he's got a good job.
Wait a
That's
minute.
right. With benefits
Correct.
and
Listen,
a pension.
if you can fall asleep when you're talking about the people's business and you take a nap, you're destined for great things in the Democratic Party.
That's it. That's it. Hey, we got a message on YouTube from No Jab JB. We pay taxes enough with all the volunteer bullshit. Volunteering should be an added asset, not cover the work the city should be doing. I agree.
We agree.
And if the union had a leader with a backbone, he'd file a grievance because that's their job. And that's union busting.
Oh, Colin, yeah, I will give me the address. I will write them. Actually, I don't even have to write it. I've written that same letter maybe
100 times.
100 times and sent it to the city council. So I will send all the councilors, most of whom aren't running for re-election, and they'll just throw it in a barrel, especially when they see who's signing it. If it's from CJ and I, they're going to go, oh, no, not those two, because we know what we're going to hear.
Instead, we'll send it to Deb Cabral, so she has to read it at the school committee meeting under citizens' input.
Yeah. Yeah, the only problem is they've got even more strict limits on that thing. And as soon as they begin to read it, they'll go, time's up. This is a letter from CJ Perry. Time's up. This is a letter from Chet Camara. Time's up. Can't read the letter. Read it into the record. No, I would be glad to do that. It's my pleasure. But this is the problem, and our viewer was right. Listen, you and I have volunteered for many things. People don't know that. They're all saying we're negative, we're this, we're that, because we call the balls and the strikes. These people want everything, but you've volunteered numerous times. I've been on all kinds of unpaid committees. I was on a Salvation Advisory Board for years with some very influential businessmen. Remember Danny Tao from Mark Hughes Restaurant? His wife, Mary, and a few other people. I delivered turkeys to the people, low-income people, for years when I was a member of the Salvation Advisory Board. I didn't get paid for that. And I actually took my son, when he was young, out with me, delivering turkeys on Thanksgiving, to show him how some people who unfortunately had to live in poverty and they couldn't afford a decent Thanksgiving dinner. And we went into some apartments that were, it was, they barely had furniture. And it had a lasting impression on him. I taught him a lesson by showing him the fact that there are people like this in the city. And there's still a lot, and there are more. We have more and more homeless because of Coogan. And we got places like Johnston, Rhode Island, Somerset. Man, at least these towns are 18,000, 20,000 people building affordable housing, and they got poverty rates of like 2%, 3%, 4%. And we've got 20.9 according to the U.S. Census Bureau. That's nearly one. Well, it's one in five, but it's a little bit more than one. It's almost 21%. 1 out of every 5 people in Fall River is living below the poverty level. You don't think we need affordable housing in Fall River? Really, Paul? Really? Oh, but then again, you'd actually have to know numbers. Aren't you the guy that says, I don't know numbers?
Oh, wait, it gets better. Are you ready for the covering the line of bullshit up? Mike Dion from CDA says that if the big, beautiful bill gets passed, okay, his ability to create affordable housing for units in Fall River will be curtailed. No, that just means that you won't have waste money to give to Paul Coogan to do what he wants in
Yeah.
the parks and then the sidewalks and everywhere else.
And not only that, Payola boy, you're going to be the new city. You're going to be the new city administrator.
That's right.
There's your big lie, like Kenny Pacheco, to get a job. Oh, I won't be able. What affordable housing have you provided? We've got virtually nothing in Fall River based on our. I can show you every other city in the state has built complexes of affordable housing. Cities they're not even cities, they're towns. Acton's a town. Somerset's a town. Johnston, Rhode Island is a town. They're not even cities. And they've built more. You are full of shit, Dion. You always have been. You're a political ass kisser. And it paid off. Now you're going to be city administrator.
Bump that pay up, bump that pay up, bump that pay up.
It's going to impede. What the hell have you done for? I drove by again. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was bullshit. I went by. Remember the project on Rodman Street?
Yep.
Remember when we had the big controversy about bulldozing that thing?
Yes, I do.
And they made an agreement to create what? Veterans housing?
That's right.
Veterans affordable housing. Coogan tried to get out of it. They blocked it. Have you been by that place lately? It's up in your neighborhood. That place is a disgrace. It's fenced off. It's got elephant grass. The grass is like 10 feet high there. It's derelict. We have an entire lot that was dedicated years ago to building affordable housing specifically for veterans. And for 6 years, the only thing Coogan ever did is try to get that land for market rate housing under the guise of, well, that's not what it really said. Oh, well, we can't really do that. Well, no, they made an agreement. This is what you got leading this city. This is why we are up to our eyeballs with this stuff, and I'm just surprised. I think Coogan actually, I got to look at that picture more closely because I don't really pay attention, but I think he may have blue eyes, but I'm surprised the brown hasn't taken over. The bullshit's got to be at least up to his lower part of his eyeball. So he should have partially brown eyes because he's full of bullshit right up to his ears. And like I said, there's a lot that's been derelict for well over a decade. I can't even remember so long.
And the city's used it for getting rid of snow in the winter. They've got empty trailers on the property with mattresses that you pay $50 to get rid of. They get put in that trailer. Okay? Where's the $50 going to? The trailer?
Yeah, no, of course. And the irony is, heaven forbid they use it.
It's a rat-infested field.
That's right. And the neighborhood's full of rats because of that. And the other thing is that, heaven forbid, they used it. What they said they were going to use it for. Veterans housing. It shows you the duplicity of politicians. They will promise you anything to get what they want, and then they never.
And here's the excuse Paul uses. The city doesn't own that. The housing authority owns it.
Yeah, and who owns the housing authority? Paul
Right.
Coogan, because he appoints everybody.
Right. And remember, if the housing authority owned it, how come the city of Fall River entered into the agreement?
And how come they're using it for Fall River storage?
That's right. And Fall River snow.
Why don't you call cousin Steve, Paulie? Call cousin Stevie. He put up signs for you. Tell him. Build some housing for our veterans. No. Just like our state reps. Call Alan Sylvia. He's a veteran. Oh, wait a minute. Alan Sylvia voted against veterans preference for veterans. Oh, call Carol Fiola. She's not a vet. Oh, well, wait a minute. She too voted against housing preference for veterans.
Good seeing you back, Stevie.
Stevie, nice having you back. Yeah, they could use it as a maze. Yeah, turn them loose in the maze with no food. Because they could never find that. The only way they'd ever find their way out of that maze, Steve, is if they had a trail of political campaign kickbacks. They're showing them where the exit is. I'll tell you, on a day like today, we celebrate what a great nation this is. We see that nothing's perfect, and they're fighting viciously against us trying to eliminate waste and actually bring services to people who really need them. Like you said, CJ, you know that. You deal with Medicare all the time.
Yeah, well, Medicare isn't being touched. It's Medicaid.
Yeah. Well, it's a federal program, and it does kind of like semi-overlap, and you know what's going on in that program too. And the thing is that these programs, they've become, I drive by Watuppa Heights. I see that. I drove by today, and I went, geez, look at this shit mess. And then I drove by, another great, boondoggle as you go down the street. Remember the incinerator?
Yep.
Remember we were going to build a facility to handle recycles?
Yes, I do.
That was going to cost us $13 million. It costs us $13 million a year now to get rid of our recycles. If we would have built an expansive building on that property, the city of Fall River would be making millions of dollars. We could have taken recyclables from all over southeastern Massachusetts and New England.
And who came up with that program that got put to the voters? What candidate for office came up with that program who's running for office right now? Carlos Caesar got that put on the ballot as an individual. He got that put on the ballot. 15,000 voters said to create a transfer station over at the city incinerator. We would have made money on that.
On that action alone,
exactly.
Carlos Caesar has demonstrated that he has more ability and vision for this city than Paul Coogan has shown in 6 years as mayor. He has no vision. All he knows how to do is do what politicians
the worst part about it is the work was already done. All he had to do was look back at the history and think, oh, well, this is a good idea. Let's do this. Then he's going to take the credit himself, like every politician does.
Yeah, but then again, it's automatically disqualified with somebody like Coogan, who is a typical politician, because you know what disqualifies it? It's a good idea.
That's right.
They don't want good ideas. What they want is stuff that they can throw money at for the rest of their lives, like the bullet train in California. Newsom wants to continue to get money when that train has absorbed $200 billion and they have not laid a foot of track yet, and he wants more government money. This is what these people like for programs. Let's hire Mike Dion as a city administrator. What is his background? Zero. Oh, he ran a federal program. Well, all you got to do is be in politically to get to run a federal program. His cousin Stevie. Call cousin Stevie. You stuck him over in a housing authority. Call cousin Stevie. Ask them to get Watuppa Heights as housing for veterans. Let's do it. It's only been like 15 years. No, we got to store mattresses. Oh, we got to give people jobs. Well, this is what they do. And now they're going to be down at the fireworks, for the photo ops. And when that's done, they're going to tell you
to clean it up.
that they just bent you over and increased your taxes, and that's just only the beginning, and giving out tips to all their rich friends, they're going to tell you, go down and clean it up. Be civic minded.
Yep.
Well, if you're civic minded, you know what the greatest civic minded action you could ever execute? Go to the damn polls and vote these people out.
That's right. That's right.
That is the best civic action you could ever take.
Chicky just said on YouTube, that's why I'm supporting him, meaning Carlos.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hope a lot of other people do too, because they are going to definitely attack him, because you know the problem is they're going to say, well, he doesn't have the background, the education, but well, Coogan was a teacher. He's got a degree. Look at what he did. You know, one of the best mayors we've ever had in this city, not that they were super great, but they were pretty functional. Carlton Viveras had a GED. John Arruda didn't even have a high school diploma or a GED.
That's right.
And he ran this city. Because you know what you need to run this city?
Common sense.
Common sense, and you need to know what it's like to have to pay a bill and have to figure out how you can get enough money to pay that bill. Paul Coogan never had that problem. He got himself a nice political job in a school department. He didn't even have to teach. He was babysitting. And then he became a vice principal. And he walked around with his hands in his pockets, high-fiving people. And his whole life, he's gotten a guaranteed paycheck, no matter how incompetent, no matter how irrelevant his contribution was. And now he's become mayor. And he's catered to nothing but his rich friends, his banker friends, his lawyer friends, his developer friends, and screw the people of 6 years, he's done absolutely nothing for the people of Fall River. I defy somebody to give me some kind of impactful action he has taken for the benefit of the citizens of Fall River. Putting lights and benches for $7 million on Duval Street that we were going to get him for free, to make sure his rich friend had nice lights in front of his property. Paving Duval Street ahead of your street that needs paving because his rich friend just bought the property on Duval Street. That's what Paul Coogan does. That's what Paul Coogan does. And then out of the other side of his mouth, he talks about my administration will be transparent. We will be ethical. We want a safe, clean city. This city's a shithouse. The streets are a shithouse. And now they're worse after the storm. I hope everybody survived the storm without.
Speaking of the storm, 1465 Pleasant Street. Some of you may know the building has been abandoned for a while. A lot of buildings on Pleasant Street have. It's right next to the old Durfee Attleboro Bank. The roof is gone. The roof is on the sidewalk.
Did they find Toto?
Well, you know, what's interesting is I think the city paid to fix that roof a couple of years ago. Now the roof is gone. Yeah,
because they hired a contractor, probably paid him a ton of money, and he put 3 nails in it.
Right. So, just so people are aware, be careful driving around 1465 Pleasant Street.
Yeah. That was an incredible storm, though. I've seen a lot of storms in time, but that storm did not last very long. But I'm going to tell you something. It did. I drove down County Street this morning. I couldn't get down to McGowan. There was a tree in the middle of the road. There was a wire down. There was a police car. I had to turn around, go back around. There were lines down Ellsbury Street. They got Ellsbury Street shut down. There's no power to Papa Gino's, I think, and Newport Creamery was closed and stuff like that. And but that thing did a tremendous amount of damage. It was a very short-lived storm. But I'm going to tell you something too. That thing was blowing. My house it's an old house. My house is 100 years old. It was built with real timbers in the old days. Structurally, it's very, very sound. And I'm going to tell you, at the second floor of my house, I could feel the house moving a little bit with that wind. That was quite the storm. For normally you get them short-term storms. You get a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, a lot of rain, a little bit of wind. But I'll tell you, that wind was really blowing.
The worst part about it was kind of like not even a warning. What happened was We knew the storm was coming. I mean, all the news outlets
Yeah.
said the storm was coming. All of a sudden, it went from light to dark.
Yeah.
And then the clouds opened up and just fell. No drizzling, just whoosh. And then the wind came in and whipped it around.
Oh yeah, I know. I got caught running around my house closing all the windows because I had the windows open because it wasn't that bad a day. I didn't need
Right.
the air. And I, and that wind was blowing the thing halfway across the room when it was through the windows. I'll tell you. But a lot of people sustained, tree damage to their house, and to their streets and things. So be careful when you're driving around. A lot of streets are still blocked. I saw. I went over to pick up. I went over to All Clears to pick up some. Today was, like I said, we got the same 3-day schedule for you and I. But today was my hot dog day. Tomorrow's my hamburger day, and then Sunday's my steak day.
Today I had my steak.
You had your steak, so you can have your hot dogs and hamburgers later. But we do the typical America. But let's not forget what it is. I said today, this is the greatest country, and I've been to a lot of the world. I've seen a lot of this world, believe me. And there's no country like this country. And when I see these nitwits protesting America, like I said, listen, what they should do, but the mainstream media is complicit with them. What they should do on a day like today at those protests, they should have a giant jumbotron screen and run the video of Tiananmen Square. Run the video of when in Czechoslovakia they demonstrated against Russia and laid under the tanks and they ran them over with the tanks. Let them see the countries that they think of. If there's better countries than ours, by all means, go. But to have so little real knowledge of why this country was created, what this country is, and it's not perfect, but it's the best there is. And people like you are the reason that we're not getting even more perfect. We've managed to be at a standstill because half the people in the country have been brainwashed by these yo-yos. Like the clown in New York that's going to give you everything for free. Hate to tell you this, pal. There's no free lunches. You want to dance, you got to pay the band. Somebody's got to pay for something. Otherwise, nobody's got anything.
That's it.
So it's crazy. It's craziness here. What was Ladera about? Yeah, that was one of the most staggering elections in the world. A little known fact: Ernie Ladera was. I don't know if you know, Stevie. I don't know if you knew Jimmy Gibney, who was the superintendent of schools for a while in the city of Fall River. That was his father-in-law. He was a congressional aide, Ladera.
Yes, he was.
He had one of the most well-financed. It just goes to show that. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because that shows the power of the people if they go to if you vote. Ernie Ladera had one of the best financed campaigns, I think, in the history of Fall River. Obviously, money was different then, but he had his own. He had his own all over the buses. He had campaign ads. He had 1 million signs all over the city. And he even had a slogan, and I still remember it because whatever I want to remember, I can. I was gifted. I'm gifted with a fairly, a near photographic memory for what I want to remember. But I still remember the slogan: "The UCJ, Ernie Ladera, he'll be a full-time mayor, a full-time mayor, a full-time mayor, Ernie Ladera." He had his own jingle, and it played incessantly on We Suck at Radio. It was on television. He had TV ads, radio ads. He had everything. I mean, they dumped a boatload of money into that, and he didn't make it through the primary. Ladera didn't make it through the primary. So it's not money. They say they can buy an election. You can buy an election with a low turnout. If the people come out to vote, you'll see what they truly feel.
What's interesting is, while we're talking about elections, they just came out with a statement for Southeastern Massachusetts from the Secretary of State's office. Ballot harvesting is illegal in Massachusetts. Was that directed towards Fall River?
That's a pretty fair guess, I think.
I would think so too.
And ballot harvesting in City Hall is prohibited by law, even before they prohibited it for the general public.
That's right.
You can't do, although there have been, how many times have we seen allegations of people using political action in a government?
How many times have city employees sold fundraising tickets for the administration?
Yeah, or for council
in
members.
City Hall.
Yep. Which is, by the way, prohibited. Prohibited by law. But nobody cares. Like I said,
it's not that nobody cares. Everyone's afraid to come forward and say anything.
Yeah, well, because, like I said,
first when they think they've got it locked down, all of a sudden their key witness turns around and says, "I don't remember. I didn't do it. Because they're threatened. Once they find out who they are, you open your mouth, you lose your job. Then they lose their job anyways.
Yeah, well, it's like that one they caught in Connecticut. They had her for like 2 or 3 different elections. They had videos of her, and it took them like 5 or 6 years to finally fire her from being the mayor's assistant.
Right.
Who was harvesting ballots on videos, walking away from her desk in City Hall and stuffing the ballot boxes near the City Hall. And it was like, wow. I mean, she should have been terminated the first time that happened. But then again, the mayor got in every election, too, that she stuffed the ballots.
And always remember, Riga Machado.
Yeah, well, some people say, how did he get that nickname? We know. And it's funny because you're talking about that's the election of Ernie Ladera.
Right.
Ernie Ladera didn't make it through the primary, and Carlton ran against Madeline Roderick.
Right. And Maryland didn't win because of threats.
Yeah. That was the second election.
That's right.
First election, that's when Riga. That's where there were allegations of people throwing ballots out the back door. Out the back door of the government center. Yeah, and that election was only decided by what, 128 votes or 300
something like
votes?
That. Yeah.
Very, very tiny margin too. That was amazing. See, that's the problem with us. We got very long memories, and we've been in this game a very long time, and. We know we've seen it all happen. History repeats itself. But I'm going to tell you something. We have a historical mayor. We've seen a lot of mayors. I've never seen anybody as incompetent and totally oblivious to the people of Fall River. I mean, how can you ignore your constituency for 6 years? Do nothing but raise their taxes and raise their fees
and spend their money.
And then give all your friends these giant pay raises, and they don't get off their ass and go to the polls.
Right.
What is wrong with these people? How much is it going to take? I don't know. Maybe it's 1995 all over again when we got rid of 5 people in the council. We're going to bring every council candidate over, and like I said, I'm going to do something unprecedented for me. I am going to vet the candidates, and I'm going to give you straight out who I'm going to vote for on a council and on school committee. I can already tell you I have 3 guaranteed votes. Michelle Dion for city council.
Yep.
Colin Dias and Kevin Aguiar for school committee.
In the 15 years we've been doing this show, we have never once made recommendations.
That's right.
Who should be elected? This will be the first time in 15 years.
That's right. Yeah, it is. It is time for the people to rise up again. Yeah, Ladera was about bringing. He ran. I'm looking at Stevie's comment again. Yeah, rigor mortis. Yeah, yeah. Well, it was also another one about rigging things too. Yeah, yeah. Look, it takes a lot to get the people, off their butt, but they got to realize, geez, it doesn't take that long to vote. We've got to get rid of these people. I mean, these people are just. I mean, this is the worst, and that's saying something. I've seen some really bad administrations.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey, tonight is the 4th of July. As we said earlier, there are fireworks down at the waterfront. If you have pets, please keep them indoors, away from the noise. Don't bring your dog down to the waterfront and say, well, he's my emotional support animal. Who's your dog's emotional support animal?
Yeah,
Those fireworks can scare the shit out of your dog.
yeah.
Okay? Think about your animal. Think about your dog.
That's right. And also remember one thing: fireworks are illegal in Massachusetts. You're not supposed to be blowing up fireworks, and everybody does it. And when I was working, I used to try to, we used to try to put a kibosh on it. But the fact is that, when somebody blows off their fingers or their face someday, and it'll happen, it happens periodically because some moron thinks this thing is fun. You actually need a license to display fireworks in Massachusetts, and that's one of the few things I agree with. You shouldn't sell these things to people who are borderline,
schizophrenic.
yeah, and it's crazy. And like you said, my that big monster behind me over there, where is she? She took off. Yeah, that big 90-pound monster. They're all afraid of, loud noises and stuff like that. They get, you're terrorizing your dog. You're right, CJ.
Right.
You bring your dog down to the fireworks, you're basically terrorizing the dog. Your dog will never be right again after that because
That's right. That's right. So please take care of your fur babies. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Happy 249th birthday, America, because next year we're 250 years old. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday.
Happy birthday, USA.